Good morning, everybody. Hello, and I'm glad you could join us today. I'm here to discuss Bill 86, the Electricity Statutes Amendment Act. If passed, it will address the changing way that electricity producers and consumers interact with and use Alberta's power grid. The Electricity Statutes Amendment Act enables the system to adapt to rapidly changing demands, positions Alberta to manage future growth, and to remain competitive as the market evolves. The legislation supports the integration of new technologies and reflects months of engagement and discussion with investors, consumer groups, electricity producers, and utilities. If passed, the Act would enable the integration of energy storage into Alberta's interconnected electricity system as either a technology that participates in the competitive electricity market or as a part of the transmission and distribution system. It would also enable electricity generation for unlimited self-supply with export while ensuring that transmission system costs are balanced among all users on the system. And it would set the stage for a distribution system planning framework, building off of the Alberta Utility Commission's distribution system inquiry. This framework will focus on transparency and modernizing Alberta's distribution system to ensure the cost-effective integration of distributed energy resources in the system. When taken together, these amendments will pave the way for increased investment and will help facilitate the adoption of these new technologies. They will also maintain our overarching requirement that infrastructure costs are fair, reasonable, and they're borne by all Alberta ratepayers. Energy storage, the ability to retain surplus electricity for later use, has been a limited feature of Alberta's electricity market for many years in the form of stored hydro. Now, other forms of energy storage are increasingly becoming economically viable and could take on a wide range of roles within the electricity system to support lower carbon generation and help manage system costs. For example, battery storage systems are increasingly being deployed in electric transmission and distribution systems to improve the overall reliability of the grid. There is potential for energy storage to result in cost reduction across the various areas of the electricity system. This is good news for consumers as these system costs impact all ratepayers. The legislation would integrate energy storage into both the competitive electricity market and the transmission and distribution system to encourage its adoption. It would provide a definition of energy storage in the province's legislative and regulatory framework and provide clarity for energy storage projects and proponents promoting the adoption, implementation, and investment in this important technology. It will also provide the regulatory oversight required to ensure that Alberta energy assets align with Alberta's legislative requirements for a fair, efficient, and openly competitive marketplace. Self-supply with export enables electricity consumers to also be electricity providers. It is one of the major changes within the system. More and more frequently, large industrial and commercial consumers and developers are considering on-site generation with export as a means of meeting their growing energy needs and creating economic efficiency. The Electricity Statutes Amendment Act would allow for unlimited self-supply with export within Alberta's electricity system. This means proponents would have the ability to generate unlimited electricity as they choose on their own sites, to sell any surplus to the grid and to draw from the grid when they require it. The advantage of this approach are significant. It could assist industrial and commercial customers in managing costs, promote reliability of the integrated electricity system, reduce emissions, and increase competition and diversify investment. To ensure that this technology is not used for bypassing transmission costs and leaving ratepayers on the hook, this policy would ensure that self-supply and export projects pay their fair share of system costs through an appropriate tariff that would be established by the electrical systems operator. As well, to ensure a level playing field with the rest of Alberta's electricity generators, all self-supply with export projects would have to comply with all the independent system operator rules, just like any other generator. To further support the integration of these technologies, Alberta's distribution system needs to evolve to cost-effectively and efficiently accommodate the rapid adoption of distributed energy technologies, including residential solar, battery storage, and electric vehicle charging. The third pillar of the Electricity Statutes Amendment Act would provide the amendments required to continue the modernization of Alberta's electric distribution system and to enable the cost-effective integration of distributed energy resources. This act would include a planning framework to inform and to guide the modernization of the electric distribution system. This would provide transparency to ensure that the introduction of new technology takes place in an orderly, efficient, and cost-effective way. Proactive planning of grid modernization offers better cost management and improved customer outcomes by maximizing the use of existing systems and encouraging the use of non-wire solutions. This supports our key objective of developing an electric distribution system planning framework that can help ensure Alberta's distribution system remains safe, reliable, and affordable while adapting to these new technologies. If Bill 86 passes, the planning framework and associated regulation will be developed following a thorough engagement process to ensure the planning process is efficient and that market participants are not saddled with unreasonable regulatory hurdles. To provide direction over the planning process, the amendments within the Act would provide the Minister of Energy with regulation-making authority. The Electricity Statutes Amendment Act has been developed following months of extensive consultation with industry stakeholders, consumer groups, and our electricity agencies. The bill is specifically targeted to help position Alberta to manage growth and costs while staying true to the guiding principles of our integrated electricity system, ensuring a fair, efficient, and openly competitive electricity market and providing safe, reliable, and affordable electricity for all consumers. Overall, it is anticipated that these amendments will not have immediate impacts on consumers' utility bills, but they do have the potential to lead to longer-term savings and increase investor confidence in our electricity system. The Electricity Statutes Act will help establish the conditions that will encourage further investment in the sector, support the adoption of new clean technologies, and lead to greater affordability in the longer term. So thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Associate Minister Nally will now take questions from the line. We have time for 2 off the top or 1 and a follow-up. Operator, please put through the first caller.
Catherine Kurkowski, Alberta Today.
Thanks for taking my question. So you mentioned that in the long term, this could lead to savings for consumers. Can you just explain, like I'm 5, why that's the case with this?
Yeah, absolutely. In the longer term, this has the propensity to bring down the wires costs in this province because batteries provide a great opportunity for non-wire solutions, which in some cases can be cheaper than wire alternatives. And the other reason is that this will encourage more competition and more choice in the marketplace, and we know that that is the best path forward for lower prices because it'll allow consumers to participate in arbitrage in the marketplace. Businesses could using energy storage, could purchase cheap electricity at night, sell it back into the marketplace during the day. And it is this type of increased competition and increased choice that will bring down the cost of electricity in this province.
Do you have a follow-up, Catherine?
Yes, please. And there's a bit of disagreement as to whether the current transmission and distribution tariffs provide the right incentive for the self-supply and export market. So I'm wondering, have you made any decisions on what directions you're going for tariffs?
Well, I can say it's important that we have a system that does not allow cost avoidance, because if we do, that would put unnecessary increasing costs on consumers and ratepayers. And we're determined not to do that. We want a fair, efficient marketplace. So it's important that there is an appropriate tariff. And as you know, it's not government that will determine that tariff, but the Alberta Electrical System Operator.
Thank you. Can we put through the next caller, please?
Chris Farco, Calgary Herald.
Hi, Minister. I wonder if you can tell us specifically how will this legislation impact Alberta's power market and help it get ready for coming changes such as the proliferation of electric vehicles or allowing for additional renewable energy to come onto the grid?
Well, this will provide investor certainty and clarity to the marketplace, to consumers, and to the regulator, because there's a number of spaces in the marketplace that that the regulation that's in place and the legislation in place does not address new technologies that have come about. So this legislation is about modernizing the legislative framework so that we can embrace new technologies that didn't exist when this legislation was last updated, specifically to the EV charging and rooftop solar and other forms of distributed energy. That will be addressed in the distribution piece, because the distribution changes will come about through some regulatory amendments that will be made in the very near future. So we'll go out and we're going to consult with industry, utilities, consumers, and then we're going to bring more regulatory changes to the distribution side of the equation, and that will allow the framework for distributed generation that you're talking about.
Just to follow up, can you tell me what the government's view is on the role of energy storage, specifically battery storage in the province? A number of projects have already been proposed, and a few of them are actually operating. But what do you see as the long-term potential for that within this province's power grid?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I mean, there's currently 15 energy storage projects that are at different phases of approval in the regulatory process, and they have been approved on a one-off basis. And the AUC has indicated to us that rather than doing one-off approvals, they would like us to provide some clarity, some certainty that includes a definition on what an energy storage is, and then the framework that's going to allow them to approve those projects. We believe that energy storage, while it is a new technology, but it's going to do some pretty important things for this province. It is going to help deal with the intermittency of renewable energy, because that is the biggest challenge with renewable energy. And so energy storage can help with that. It could also help with the reliability of the grid. It could provide non-wire solutions, which could reduce the costs for Albertans long term. And it also creates an opportunity for companies to participate in arbitrage in the marketplace by buying cheap electricity at night and sell it back to the marketplace during the day.
Thank you, Chris. Operator, can you put through the next call, please?
Jenny Russell, CBC.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. We heard earlier about the kind of 4 exceptions or classes of groups that can self-supply and sell back to the grid. I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about how this bill, who this would specifically or is aimed at opening self-supply and export up to currently, who is the people who currently are kind of barred from doing it under existing legislation?
Well, I would say this would open up self-supply and export to everybody that wants to participate in that. Right now, there are self-supply and export is not allowed in our marketplace. There's 4 exceptions to that. Industrial system designation facilities, municipalities for their own use, microgeneration, and then also flare gas. So it's very restricted. This would allow all companies that want to produce electricity for their own use, as well as sell it back to the marketplace to participate. And this is what industry has told us that they want. And there are investors that are on the sidelines. They're in the province. They're kicking the tires. They want to invest in Alberta, but they need clarity on the self-supply and export. So industry is asking for this, and we want to be able to provide this investor certainty in this space in the electricity marketplace.
I think that's good for me.
Okay.
That is all the questions we have, so it concludes today's availability. Thank you, everyone.